The Holdovers is a remarkable and timeless piece of filmmaking that will be considered a classic in 20 years. Feels as if it was plucked from a different era of movies, yet still resonates with current audiences around the world. Let's break down The Holdovers.
What's up, movie friends? Welcome back to Raiders of the Lost podcast, and Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, y'all. Happy holidays.
Today is Christmas, where you have this amazing episode on the Holdovers for this special occasion. We hope that you're all having a great, safe, fun, happy holiday with your family and friends. And if you've been traveling a lot, hopefully you've been binging some episodes of Raiders of the Lost podcast.
I thought you said bitching some episodes.
Binging. Binge them up.
Binge the episodes.
I'm currently in Boston, and James is in California. We're split up, although we recorded this ahead of time.
So past Anthony is talking in this episode
The future
about
me.
future Anthony.
Future
You might
me.
not have made it to Boston. Who knows?
Oh my God, what, did my plane crash?
No, I'm just saying, maybe you missed your flight. Jesus, dude, you went way off the edge of that. I'm not saying your
What
plane's
if you
gonna crash.
never
I'm like,
made
what if you
it?
never made it? And actually, you're not in Boston. You're in Vermont.
That's true. Oh, you're right. I'm in Vermont.
Future Anthony's in Vermont, not Boston. So
future Anthony's Burlington, Vermont.
So for Christmas, you got everyone a bunch of lies. A bunch
What
of
is
lies.
true? What is true? But yeah, it's going to be a great holiday. I'm excited for it. And I can't wait to talk about The Holdovers, because The Holdovers is not just the best Christmas movie in recent memory. I mean, in literally years, but also was just one of the most powerful, emotionally resonant, and hilarious films of 2023. I put it in my top 5 for 2023. It was absolutely sensational. I've been a big Alexander Payne fan since Election came out. Since I saw Election. I was little when it came out. But I love all of his films. He's a really singular filmmaker. He writes character pieces. That's what he does. He's a very complex writer, and his films are very small in scale, but they're very powerful in emotional depth. And The Holdovers is one of those, and then some. And it captured this really incredible tone, great cast of characters, love the setting. And, Christmas movies recently have been delegated to zany comedy, slapstick humor, Santa movies. And we haven't had, in a long time, a great Christmas movie that you can connect to as a human being, since, like, the ones that we grew up often watching. And this, again, like you said in the opening, The Holdovers, I believe, will stand the test of time as a Christmas classic, a rewatch for everybody in the holiday season who is a fan of it. And if you have not watched it, we couldn't recommend this enough for being really the best Christmas movie in years.
It's so much more than a Christmas movie,
Yeah.
though. It's a remarkable coming-of-age film, which was booming in the 2000s and 2010s. Tons of coming-of-age stories of young adults, teenagers, going through high school, going through the motions, going through summer break. And it seemed to sort of die out in terms of the lightness of it.
Yeah.
And there are more often, I would say, coming-of-age stories that have more serious tone, a more dramatic tone, and more intense analyses of life, which are great and wonderful. But, sometimes these ones really connect us. This one is so reminiscent of Dead Poets Society. Obviously, similar settings. We're in the past, we're a period piece. Dead Poets is 1958. This is the 1970s. But, we're at a boarding school again. We're with these young kids, focusing mostly on one as they're trying to get through a tough period in their life. But coming-of-age stories, I think, are so special because everyone can relate to it. I relate to Lady Bird so much, but I even though, I didn't grow up exactly like that, I never jumped out of a car and broke my arm and went by a different name. But
You're not a girl with pink hair?
No, I'm not a girl with pink hair. But there's so many different parts of all kinds of coming-of-age stories that everyone can relate to, and really makes you feel like you're young again. If you're an older person, if you're middle-aged, if you're a young adult watching these, harkening back to what your life was like when you were a teenager, or even if you're younger than the age of the kids in this movie, you can recognize and realize, what life could be like, or what high school is going to be like for you going forward, and sort of take some life lessons from it, because this movie's full of great nuggets of wisdom, and it's so great at showing character growth, not just for kids, but also adults.
There's also a few other movies that this movie feels like a familial bond with. So Good Will Hunting, I get vibes from this film. School Ties, obviously. Remember Outside Providence?
Yeah, Outside Providence, for sure.
From the Farley brothers.
That was the 70s, right?
That was set in the 70s, and that was about a kid at a boarding school who's trying to fit in, and he's from Southie. And the Farley,
I had such a crush on Amy Smart back then.
Yeah, Amy Smart. And the Farley brothers made that as that was their first serious film, as a coming of age film away from the the silly comedies they were doing. And so I feel like there's always like a connective tissue to those kinds of films, not just being set in a boarding school, but also in New England. And this is one of the better Massachusetts films made in recent memory. I mean, this is filmed all over Massachusetts. And you're in the city of Boston. You're all over Western Mass. They're even in Waltham, where we grew up. Waltham.
Chateau, shout out.
Chateau. They have
exterior of that restaurant.
They have dinner at the Chateau. I love it. And there's also such accurate snow depiction in the Holdovers. And it's because there was real blizzards and there were real snowstorms during production. They were able to make use of it because if you grew up in the snow, like we do, and anyone else who lives in a snowy environment in the winters, you know that when you see snow in movies, it's always like BS. It's powder or it's some fluffy material.
Especially before like 2010.
Yes. Awful.
The technology's been really greatly improved in terms of fake snow.
Sure.
And actually making real snow. But they used to do all kinds of fake
paper,
artificial snow back in the day.
And then you can just tell it when people walk on it. It doesn't look right. It doesn't sound right. The way it's always so loose and it never gets dirty. Snow is always so clean in movies.
Manchester by the Sea, when Casey Affleck is shoveling in the opening of that movie, I'm like,
accurate
that's the best snow I've ever seen in a movie.
And that's so when we watch movies in Boston and New England in the winter, I'm always taking note of, you got to get the snow right. And the Holdovers, they got it right because it's real snow. And when people walk in it, when people are shoveling it, you see the wetness of the pavement. That's something that's always missing in fake snow movies. Like, they forget to put make the pavement wet because the pavement should be wet from melting snow from the sun. So I love movies that get it right. And when you watch it, that's one of the things. It's not just the setting, but like it reminds me of my childhood. It reminds me of winters in New England. And that's also so important to really sell the world for your audience.
This movie makes you want to just cuddle up on the couch with your best friend or significant other, have a cup of cocoa, a blanket, maybe a bowl of soup probably makes this movie go hard.
Did you have soup when you watched it?
No, but I mean, it makes me feel like
makes it go hard. No, what does that even mean?
No, like this.
A bowl of soup makes the Holdovers go hard.
The viewing experience, it'd be a whole thing. It'd be like Coco.
No,
watching...
this is fucking lit, bro. I got some fucking soup.
It's like having Coco and you watching a Christmas movie. You know what I mean? Soup goes the same way because you feel chilly. You get warmed up because this movie is like visiting an old friend or seeing an old friend you haven't seen in a long time. Even on the first watch, I felt just so much nostalgia of childhood and adolescence, but also it's such a New England movie. It's such a Massachusetts movie. They filmed all over the place. We'll get into it in a little bit, but obviously...
But they avoided the accents.
Not a bit.
For the most part.
For the most part. I mean,
Mary has the thickest accent.
Mary has an accent. But the tree guys, the guys who sell the tree.
Oh, yeah, they have thick accents.
Yeah, we do it every year. Yeah, we bought the tree back from the church. Do it every year, kid.
And Mary has a Roxbury accent, which is a little different, which is why it's not
still very
quite,
Boston. Well, I mean, we're not... The accents in around Massachusetts aren't that
ridiculous.
Specific. It's not like Roxbury is different than West Roxbury, bro. It's just Bostonian, man.
Fucking Roxbury
There's no
guy.
different dialects when you go from Waltham to Alston.
They speak a different language in Brighton.
This kid's ridiculous. You can narrow down the accent to the borough you're in. But anyways, The Holdovers was directed by Alexander Payne, written by David Hemmingson. I believe it was the first feature script he wrote. He was working on a TV show before this. Rotten Tomatoes, it's a 97% critic score, 92% audience score. IMDb, it's a 7.9. Letterboxd, it's a 4.2. It's in the top 50 all-time Letterboxd movies on a budget of 13.
Really?
Top 250.
Whoa.
I'm not surprised.
That's great. That's awesome.
Letterboxd is such a recent
I thought you
movie
said top
app.
50.
Top 250.
Oh, I thought you said 50.
Well, you should probably listen a little better.
You should maybe... I bet you were wrong. I bet you said 50.
I said 250. You're editing this?
We'll
I can't
make a bet.
wait for you to go back and re-edit it to make it sound like I said 50. On a budget of $13 million, the box office gross of this film was $45 million global. On 5 Academy Award nominations, it won Best Supporting Actress for Deveney Joy Randolph, which is how you pronounce her name according to Wikipedia.
Deveney?
Deveney. I've seen all kinds of different pronunciations, but I'm pretty sure that's correct. And I watched a couple of YouTube videos to get it down.
Thank you for doing the research.
Again, filmed in Massachusetts. No sets or sound stages were used for The Holdovers. All real practical locations. They shot all over the place. For example, in Fairhaven High School and Fairhaven, Massachusetts, in February during the school's February break, they actually got a big snowstorm in Massachusetts, which they used for a lot of the movie and took advantage of the weather because the snow was actually written in the script, but sometimes it doesn't snow. Fortunately, it did. In addition to Fairhaven, they shot in Deerfield Academy. They used the front lawn and exterior of the Barton Academy for that. Groton School, used for the chapel. Northfield Mount Herman School, used for the exterior of the school. St. Mark's School, used for the dining hall, gymnasium, and headmaster's office, as well as shooting in Boston at Boston City Hall Plaza. A couple movie theaters. The movie theater in Somerville was used to create this wonderful New England aesthetic.
What's so crazy about this film is the casting, and Dominic Sessa being the huge breakout actor in this film. This was his film debut, and he won a bunch of Rising Star Awards at a bunch of award ceremonies and stuff. And he's phenomenal, and he's so great. And I loved him in this role. What's so crazy is he was a student at Deerfield Academy, which is where they filmed partly in the movie. So the exterior of like the main building of the school, that's Deerfield Academy. He was a student there, actually a student. And they held auditions because they were like, hey, we're filming here. Might as well see if there's any local talent, because I think Alexander Payne wanted to do someone local to Mass to get the feeling. And he happened to be one of the 12 young actors who auditioned from that drama club. And he got the fucking lead role in the movie. They filmed that at his school. It's unbelievable. Like, how does that even happen? It's absolutely wild. And on top of that,
he must be a king in Deerfield.
He must be the king.
He's
in Deerfield.
from Jersey, but his family moved to Massachusetts when he was in 10th grade.
Gotcha. They built a statue to him at Deerfield Academy. It's just it's amazing because, I mean, you find an actor there, but also he was so great in the role. Like, the chances of that happening, like, I mean, it must have been a difficult search to find a local actor that Alexander Payne was happy with, and then ironically for him to be at the school where they filmed, it's unbelievable, the odds of that.
Yeah, I mean, I think what Payne was looking for was someone that wasn't intensely trained in theater, intensely trained in acting, and not a child actor, not a young star who's been in a bunch of movies, but I think he wanted to ground this movie so much in the reality of the location and with the characters. Obviously, you have Paul Giamatti, who is just an all-time actor. He's such an underrated performer. I think this was a really big coming-out party for people to really get behind him, I think, in his career, because he's been great. He's been in so many movies. But this movie, people all over the world, all over film communities, just fell in love with Paul Giamatti again. I think this was a huge role for him. And Deveney's obviously very talented as well. But Sessa bringing this raw quality to the performance, a very adolescent, youthful performance. And I would say even just the inexperience of acting on films, obviously, his feature debut, his screen debut, first time acting in front of cameras probably, really added such a vulnerability to the character that maybe a seasoned veteran young actor wouldn't have brought, because they've done it 1,000 times. This is another Tuesday for them. But for Dominic, this is your first time on a movie set, and you're one of the leads of this massive, well, not massive movie, but this big movie filming in your hometown. I think that just probably created such a great performance out of him. The rawness, this original character, and then the vulnerability of my first time on a movie set, probably.
And I mean, it's really remarkable. His first time on a film, and you're acting opposite Paul Giamatti, who's been a really unbelievably reliable, respected actor for the last 25 years, and you're thrust into this film production from Hollywood. And he held his own, and he had a great presence, and he bounced off of both the other leads perfectly, and it seemed like he has a knack for improvisation a little, but he's a raw natural talent, and he was a diamond in the rough of Massachusetts. So it was such a great decision to cast him. But really, Paul Giamatti is so good, and he got to do so much in this film. He's always been a character actor, and oftentimes a supporting actor. He's only led a few films like American Splendor and the TV series John Adams, obviously. However, he's
done a lot of co-leads.
Yeah, exactly. But he's rarely like the sole lead of films. And to get him in this film playing a Scrooge-esque character, obviously he's not a Scrooge, but in a way he is.
He's more like the Grinch.
Yeah, he's like the Grinch. He's worse. But he goes through so much immense transformation, and it's great to see older characters in films go through transformation, because he's in a way a stunted man. He never left the bubble of the high school he went to. In a lot of ways, he was kind of handcuffed and in a way forced to. This was the best option for him at the time, but he's never left, and he's never even seen Greece or the ancient city of Carthage, which is his dream. And he's just become a sullen, bitter, really dicey, prickly version of probably what was a very intelligent and inspiring young man in his youth. and now he's become probably what he never wanted to become, and he hasn't realized that. Like, he doesn't realize that everybody hates him. Nobody likes you. He doesn't even understand that. And sometimes he's happy to play the asshole to the students because he thinks he's doing them a favor, but he's also motivated by his own self-hatred and his self-pity for, he didn't get a free ride. He didn't come. He got in on scholarship, but he didn't come from much, and he had an abusive father, and so he looks at these kids as spoiled brats, and he forgot that, he went to this school, and he wasn't a spoiled brat. What makes them all spoiled brats who are lucky to be here? Maybe a lot of them have as tough and difficult of childhoods as he did. He's blinded by that, and he's blinded by a really skewed vision of the world and perspective that Angus and Mary help him overcome.
Well, I think he knows these kids are spoiled brats in his eyes because they got there based off their money, their parents having the money to do it, versus very few of those kids. Like, yes. He knows they're all come from wealthy backgrounds, but he doesn't understand just because someone comes from a wealthy family doesn't mean it's a happy family.
Exactly.
Exactly what Angus' story is, where he's got so much trauma and baggage, just like Hunham has, that we learned throughout the course of the film. And it's a brilliant screenplay because it takes the entirety of the 3 acts to really get the full story of both our lead character, all 3 characters really, but for Angus and Paul to really understand everything that's going on in their lives. We don't even find out about Angus's father until really the second, third act of the movie. Quick summary of this movie, which I'm sure you've already seen.
Tell us.
Our curmudgeonly instructor at a New England school remains on campus during Christmas break. He soon forms an unlikely bond with a brainy but damaged troublemaker, and with the school's cook, a woman who just lost a son in the Vietnam War. So many underlying contexts in this film, the Vietnam War being one of them, wealth disparity being one of them, grief being a major theme of this film, and also growing up is a major part of this film and moving on for all of our characters. But I think the great strength of this movie, besides the performances and the direction, is the script. It's really sensational. From a first-time feature film writer, David Hemmingson, he did a really terrific job. So this is basically was something that Alexander Payne has been trying to develop for quite a while now. Mm-hmm. So his biggest influence for this film, for The Holdovers, was a movie called Merluce, a 1935 film, which after he saw that got inspired to make a movie like that, or sort of in this world. So he contacted David Hemmingson, whose board school television pilot he had just read. So
hold on, repeat that. He was a what?
Mark, who was what?
Wait, he contacted this guy who was what?
He was a boarding school TV show writer.
Oh, boarding school TV
so he's running a boarding school television show.
Oh.
And so it's called Whiskey Caliber for ABC. Mm-hmm. And so Alexander Payne suggested him to write a movie about this idea of sort of inspired by that plus this classic film, but set it in the past, not too far in the past like Dead Poets Society, because he didn't want to feel too much like that, but in the 1970s, and they agreed on 1970. And then in 2024, after the film came out, Hemmingson revealed that the film is partially semi-autobiographical, with some of the dialogue and scenes taken verbatim from his own life, such as words from his own real-life uncle. The scene with the sex worker was inspired by a real-life incident that he said actually happened to me on 1st Avenue and 30th Street with my uncle when I was 7 years old. This woman walked up on an incredibly cold day and solicited and said, "The kid can wait around the corner." That is an actual incident from my life. The Cherries Jubilee thing is something that happened to me with my mother, he says. So many things in the movie are just a love letter to my mom and my uncle and my dad. So clearly the right writer was chosen, and Alexander Payne saw something in this script, the television script that he read, the pilots, that thought, you know what, I can make a movie out of this, and I think I'm going to hire him as the writer.
Oh, that's great, the origin of that. I also, the 70s was a great choice, but also he and his DP did a fantastic job of really immersing us in the world immediately. The first few minutes of this film is we're just getting the world. We're getting the choir singing for the opening. We're getting exterior shots. We're getting very reminiscent of Dead Poets, of inserts and landscapes and a feel for what this place is, not just the school, but the surrounding area. But then also, I think that Alexander Payne and his team have such great attention to detail in this one. Like if you look at Hunham's office, study, home, apartment, all those things, And you can see so many great little knickknacks, and they do a great job of showing you who he is rather than telling you who he is.
Preparation H.
Yeah, Preparation H. He's always got a bottle of like Wild Turkey on his desk, and it's just so funny to be. I love the contradiction of this intellectual who is also a raging alcoholic. It's just really funny. And then also when the other teacher brings cookies and he's like repulsed by them, and he's like doesn't even want them. He's like, oh, what are those? And these little things to show you who he is rather than tell you who he is, and they show you what the world is. They make you feel like, oh, this is a real school. This is a real student body. These are real staff members, and I love everything about it. The production design's outstanding, and then the cinematography is really wonderful. And this, although it looks like it's film, it was shot digitally, but they did a great job of making it feel like film, making it look like film, whether it be grain, whether it be the blooms of light, color, the dynamic range. It really felt like an aesthetic that looked like a film stock. And color grading is getting so exceptionally advanced nowadays, where it can almost fool an audience. And this is a film that was like, I was like watching it, and I was like, in my head, I was like, was this shot on a film or was it shot? I can't tell. I really can't tell. So they did a great job of giving that aesthetic, even though they shot with the Ari, I believe,
the Ari Alexa Mini.
So, that's a great camera. But I mean, their color grading did a great job, and also they had this really nice soft lens for a lot of the intimate scenes, and it feels like a 50-ish, 55, and it has this great softness and great texture, and they play around the focal length a lot, and I think it is like this boxy frame that really, with aspect ratio is so important when you watch a movie like this. If it was a super widescreen, it wouldn't feel the same. But there's something really inviting to the audience about this boxy frame. I'm not sure exactly what the aspect ratio is, but I just really feel like I'm being inserted into the world.
166.1 is the aspect ratio.
Thanks, man. James has all the numbers. He's got everything.
He got it all, man.
He's got it all. And so I think there's a great choice of lenses, and also a great aspect ratio choice, because it feels like an aspect ratio from back then, and also it allows for really great framing, and they use a lot of negative space in this film. They isolate the characters in the frame a lot, and whether it be Hunham or Angus or Mary, they can oftentimes be surrounded by a lot of empty space, which I think showcases each of their isolation. They're all dealing with grief, they're all dealing with their past, but then throughout the course of the film, they become more connected. They're sharing the frames more often, and then I think the lenses, they move even closer with them to get that intimate, personal relationship. Like if you think about the dinner at the Chateau, we're just calling it the Chateau, that's the restaurant. If you think about that dinner in Boston, it's all really nice, intimate framing, because they've bonded and become very close. Whereas a lot of the first half of the film, it feels like mostly wides and mediums.
Yeah, well, I think that I was reading an interview with the cinematographer, Eigel Brild, who's done a lot of great projects. House of Cards, cinematographer
nice.
for a lot of episodes of that. In Bruges, No Hard
fucking
Feelings.
Bruges?
So really, really talented cinematographer. He and Payne. For the framing for the majority of the first half of the film, we have these wide shots, or shots where our characters aren't close in frame. It's about where should we put the camera to make them separated by distance. And then as the film progresses, moving them closer and closer to frame until the third act of the film, they're connected, and they're all very close. They form this little bond, this little family, and now they're all in the frame close together pretty often. And so I think that was a really clever way for the characters and for the audience to perceive their relationship by putting distance between them, and then gradually crushing that distance and getting them closer together in frame and getting a little tighter in the shots. Like Christmas party, we start to get into a lot of close-ups, and then further on, like the restaurant opens with close-ups, and then we finally wide up with the restaurant. And so I think that was a really clever way to do the framing.
I love the opening. They do a great job of establishing each of these three characters really well. Whether it be Hunham, like we mentioned earlier, we know he's an alcoholic. We know he seems like he's too smart for this job. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He seems like the way he speaks, his high vocabulary, he's saying words that probably the students don't even know what they mean. And he just doesn't feel like this is the right place for him. And obviously he deals with that through alcohol. And then you get Angus Tully. He's a troublemaker. We have that great scene with all the kids in the halls and in their rooms, and most of them are getting ready for their trips, and there's the great back and forth with the little wee bag, and he's got the swim trunks that he's like, James Bond wore these on Her Majesty's Secret Service. This is the most masculine thing you can do. And I love the little banter, and we get a great sense for who he is. He's rebellious. He's intelligent. People look to him for certain things. He's also very opinionated and disagreeable as well. And we're going to see that disagreeableness come into play a lot with Hunham, who's also very disagreeable. So you have two very disagreeable men just constantly battling each other. And it's great because we think he's about to go on vacation with his mom and stepdad. He's about Christmas break. It's going to be awesome. But that gets pulled away from him, and he's stuck as a holdover. And it's a great setup for the first 15 minutes of the movie. His dream of the vacation has just been shattered, and now he's basically serving prison time. He's stuck at school with Hunham, and it's the worst possible scenario.
And then Mary's introduction, she's in the kitchen cooking with all the other cooks, and I like how this scene ends of her looking out the window of the back door and seeing the snowfall, the fresh snow falling from the sky, and there's no dialogue. She just watches the snow falling out the window, and Alexander Payne's making you wonder and think what's going through her head. And clearly she's probably realizing and understanding throughout the course when we discover the death of her son who went to war in Vietnam, who was a student at Barton, the passage of time. This is the first winter she's going to be without her son. And this is the last place they were together. And that snowfall symbolizes that time is passing without him.
In the scene with Hunham and the headmaster, it's extremely revealing for his character because the headmaster's basically like, dude, you take it too far. You are dialed to 110%. You need to take it easy. You failed one of our biggest donors' sons, which got him pulled from the Princeton application. And whereas Hunham's like, this is a school of tradition and principles, and I'm trying to instill good values in the kids and strong work ethic. But you can tell he's being too harsh because in a way, he's probably being too harsh on them because he's looking at them as his past and a representation of his past. And so he's letting out his negative feelings of himself on the kids. And so he's taking out his frustrations on the boys is probably why he goes so far as a difficult teacher.
I think that he might be the most hypocritical character I've seen in years, at least in the first half of the film, which is one of the main arcs of his transformation towards the end, is he loses a lot of that hypocrisy. He's this guy who's obsessed with tradition and uses that as his benchmark for how he runs his classroom like a drill sergeant, but he's so hypocritical. He says we're here to raise young men, yet he's ensuring they're all failing. He's ensuring that he's grading them so hard. He thinks he's preparing them for a difficult path future for academically, but he's ensuring that most of them will fail out of school. They won't be able to attend the schools, which of course they shouldn't have the right to go to the schools just because they're doctored in by family name or by wealth. I understand that. But also he's so hypocritical because he's not helping them learn. He's basically regurgitating the things that happened to him in his youth. And he's not, like, as he learns throughout the course of the film, if you teach better, if you get across the kids in a different way, you'll actually be able to teach them instead of just yelling at them or instructing them or drilling things into them, which that great scene where, if you do a little at the museum when they're seeing the candy cane on the vase of the two characters having sex.
It's candy cane.
It's candy cane of the ancient sex. the ancient sex art. He's very informative and charismatic when he can connect to somebody, like with Angus in the scene who doesn't want to be. He's like, oh, we have to go to this museum. It's boring here. But then Paul is able to connect with him in a fun way and really get him excited about education. And if he does that in class, then he can be a really great professor that really is setting up these kids for a great future. He's so critical throughout the course of the film with disciplining the kids and instructing them, and like, we're going to get up early, we're going to go outside and exercise, and he's putting them through a running drill, and meanwhile he's coughing and smoking at the same time. And then
great.
What's he say?
Remember when he picks up the football and he tries to throw it?
Paul Hunham throwing the football has to be one of the funniest moments of 2024 and 2023 in cinema. It's hysterical. And then he says, what's he say? If you don't use the body will eat itself. And
Yeah.
meanwhile, he doesn't do anything. And the most he does is still stretch while being blasted at night before going to bed and letting out a bunch of farts. So
That's one of the best drug scenes I've seen.
he's an insanely hypocritical character, but being forced to stay with Angus and then with Mary in this tiny bubble in this sort of school prison, it really forces him to look at himself in the mirror for the first time in years.
That's what makes Meditations such an ironic motif in this film. And Meditations, the Marcus Aurelius diary book, which is seen multiple times in this film, which I think was just the best joke of the year. I was cackling every time it showed up. He has dozens of copies on it. He gives it out as gifts, and in a way, you think that someone who reads Stoicism and you think believes in Stoicism, the irony is he doesn't follow any of the principles, any of the repetitive actions that you learn in Stoicism from Marcus Aurelius's writings. Instead, he forces it onto other people, but he never forces it on himself. And there's this great there's this great phrasing. I can't remember it exactly, but it's like you should treat yourself and act the way that you would want other people to act. Like if you had kids, you should eat the way you would want them to eat. You should live the way you would want them to live. Eat well, follow their dreams, work hard, and strive to find something that they find meaning in. But a lot of people, they struggle with that, and instead they like Hunham, they do the opposite of what they would maybe instill in someone else. But we don't instill it in ourselves, if that makes sense.
And he's sort of stuck being just critical of everything. And I feel like a lot of teachers, we've all had teachers we love, but we all have had teachers we despise and hate going to class with, because I feel like it's a profession where if it goes the wrong way for somebody in that career, they become just very sour, very critical, because all they're doing is grading and criticizing, and then that's all they do in their relationships is criticizing everything about other people to what they think is the best, because you sort of have this complex of, I have authority over you, I have control over your future to an extent, I have control over your life in a small regard. If you get a bad grade in this class, you're gonna have to take it over, or you're gonna fail, or you're gonna be in trouble. It's not my problem. But now I'm sort of this authority figure in your life, and I get to be in control of you, because I think Hunham is somebody who looks to his past and he sees things were taken from him, even though he worked his butt off and he earned a spot for scholarship at 15 to go to Barton. He didn't come from wealth. He wasn't grandfathered in by name like most of the other students, almost all of them. He earned the right to go there. He earned the right to go to Harvard. I'm sure he was an exceptional student there. But then we learn through that great story of him not being a true teacher there. He's an adjunct teacher, an adjunct professor. He's not on the same pay, and he's not tenured. So he has to kind of stay there. It's the only job he can get, because he got kicked out of Harvard because another kid plagiarized his work using Hunham's, his roommates. But that kid, his parents were wealthy. His parents donated to Harvard. His name was big there. He had an important name. And so Hunham's the one that got kicked out. He's the one that got accused of plagiarism. And it's
You hit him?
You hit him with a car.
With a car.
By accident. Yeah, so we're standing in the road. Here you go, Killa.
Here you go, Killa, the clerk.
And so he's someone who looks to his life and sees, this was taken from me, and now I'm going to do the same thing to all these kids, where he's using that against them. These kids who are wealthy, grandfathered into the school. They're here because their fathers went there. Their uncles went there. Their grandfathers went to this school. Now they're going there. The same kind of pricks he's been dealing with his entire life. Rather than trying to understand them and learn from them and then teach them that way, he's looking at his past, which has created him to be so critical and hypocritical.
Speaking of the school, did you know that Deerfield Academy is actually mentioned in The Departed?
Where in The Departed?
So DiCaprio's character, he went to Deerfield as a teenager, but he got kicked out because he hit a teacher with a folding chair. I fucking love it. Did you have a teacher that I don't think I ever hated any teachers. I don't think we had bad luck like that of having a horrible teacher, but did you ever have a teacher that you just were like, oh, I don't want to go into their class?
Oh yeah, dude. Are you kidding? You didn't have any?
There was one.
Several.
There was one teacher where I didn't hate him, but he was like, he always talked about himself. and he always tells stories of what he was doing. He was a math teacher we both had in high school. And he would always talk about like his bushes and trimming his bushes, and he would talk about what cars he was thinking about buying. And I remember one time he was talking about buying the square Scion that when it came out, and everyone in the class was like, "Don't get that car." But his classes, he would just like drone on about his life, and I would just be there. And I remember I'd be like, "Aren't you supposed to be teaching?" I would just be, and it was here we go with another story.
Yeah, I mean, some teachers, everyone's different. Some
Yeah.
teachers, teach in different ways. But, I wouldn't call out anyone specifically. But, yeah, I don't want to get too specific here, man.
I'm not saying, don't say any names, but like, come on, it's not like they're listening.
You never know.
Come on, man.
You never know.
Come on, tell me a story.
Tell you a story?
What was a bad teacher you had?
A bad teacher? I mean, I guess it wasn't like teachers that I hated.
Exactly,
In
I'm
terms
not
of, like,
saying
they
hate,
weren't. I've
yeah.
had teachers that were mean and rude for sure. But, I mean, teachers that I didn't think did a great job teaching the class. That would just shove work in your face. Here, read 50 pages by next class, and then do the same thing next week and the week after that. And then you're doing all this reading, and they're not really, and you can tell they've done this curriculum 20 years in a row.
Yeah.
And it's nothing new. It's not invigorating. It's not energizing. It's depleting you of all your energy, and all your lust for knowledge is out the window because they're not taking, they think they're taking it seriously. And similar to the extent of Hunham, where it's just throwing a bunch of information at you.
Yeah.
I'm going to grade you very critically. And then it's not the best way to learn, in my opinion. And I think that's clear, especially with this class where almost everyone's failing, except for some kids who get C pluses. And then Angus is obviously top of his class for the history class, gets the B plus. A B plus in Hunham's class is probably an A plus in any other class. So I think that for me, it was teachers that weren't great teachers, in my opinion, regurgitated the same thing for the last 20, 30 years with the same syllabus, never gave any effort into wanting to connect. And that gave me the feeling of, I don't want to go to this class today.
And that is reflected in the museum scene you pointed out, where Hunham gives a lesson with his heart and with his passion, and Tully points out that was actually great. You should teach more like that.
It's candy cane.
Candy cane.
Come on, doesn't Daddy want a candy cane? He could stay here.
Doesn't Daddy want a candy cane? Oh, we'll come back.
So distribution of this movie. So there was a special screening. It didn't go to any festivals at first. So there's a special screening of the film held for buyers on September 11th, 2022. The next day, it was reported that Focus Features had acquired distribution rights for $30 million for The Holdovers, which I think was a fantastic investment. Clearly, everyone knew this was a hit film on their hands. And then it was scheduled for a theatrical release. It came out in 2023 in November, a wide release. And it pulled in the $45 million, which, yes, when you look at the surface of the budget to the box office, profit for sure. $13 million, $45
Because Focus didn't pay for the production.
Yes, but then you buy your movie for $30 million, and you make $40 million in the box office. It's pretty damn solid. But this movie, I think, even though the box office wasn't $200 million, it's still a hit because this, for the next 50 years, is a classic. People are going to be renting this every day, every holiday. People are going to be renting this annually to watch. People are going to buy it digital. People are going to buy it physical media, Blu-rays, everything. This is a movie that's going to live on forever. So I think this was such a great investment for a massive pay of $30 million. Yes, but when you look at a film that still had a great box office performance, but then the future profits you can make off that film, the how profitable this IP is right now, not IP, but this movie is, I think is just immense. And I think they just understood what they had in their hands.
Yeah, and it's got over 1 million ratings on Letterboxd. That's huge. And you're right, it is, even though it wasn't the biggest box office hit, if it came out 20 years ago, it would have been a huge hit. This is a long-term piece of media that, in the long run, it's going to get watched. The licensing rights are going to earn Focus Features a lot of money over the coming years, over the decades.
Definitely.
They're going to be, again, this is going to be a commonly streamed movie, commonly rented movie, like James said. So it's a great investment by Focus. Also, I love the opening title logos.
Yeah, the classic styles.
Classic ones. And also, I mean, the Focus Features with this 70s retro red and black title card. Not title card, but logo card. I loved it. I remember seeing it for the first time, and the studio logos came on, and I was like, "Oh, this is going to be a good movie."
This is a great theater
movie.
movie. This is a very special theater movie, and I remember within seconds being hooked as soon as I saw those logos. But even just the opening of the movie, with the singing, with the chorus, and then with the cinematography, B-roll, and even that lingering shot of the caretaker who's shoveling outside. Then he looks up at the lights from Hunham's apartments, and then it just lingers on that shot of the warm lit windows in the cold and the snow. And then we cut inside of his apartment. We don't even see him yet, but I just really love that opening. I found some really funny and great Letterboxd reviews I'd love to read.
Oh, okay. Let's do it.
If that's cool with you. So this is from James.
Not you.
Scaffarellis. There's a handshake in this that feels more overwhelmingly warm and emotional than most hugs I've seen in movies.
Aww.
It does have an all-time handshake at the end of the film. From Iowa Debris. They don't make movies like this anymore, but then they did. Charming, frightening New England representation. This is from Jay. Men were remembering the Roman Empire daily in the 1970s. Karsten. Hit out of the park for me. Probably goes even harder with a bowl of soup. See?
What? Did they really say that?
Yeah.
Is that where you got it from?
Yeah. And then Miriam. The Shining. It was a heartwarming comedy. That's a great one. That's great.
Oh, that's a good one. It's a 4.2. That's great. I'm so glad people love this film. It's so good. And
It's plucked from a different era.
Yeah.
It feels like it's just plucked from the 1970s and just got released this year.
And the comedy really works. Like one of my favorite scenes in the entire year of 2023 was when that jock kid with the long hair, and he's been having this back and forth with his dad about cutting his hair or not, and that's why he's stuck as a holdover. When they're all in the library studying because Hunham's turned the holdover vacation week into, you're still here, so you're going to act like you're in school and do work. And they're like, what the fuck? So they have to study, they have to do homework, they have to keep doing lessons, and it's just bullshit. And so they're all in the library working, and they're all miserable. And then you hear... And they're all like, what is that? And then the kid's like, oh, it's my dad. And they run out to
He says big softy.
Big softy. And then they look out the window, and there's a helicopter coming in. And then it cuts to they invited the other kids to come spend the vacation with them. And everyone's so excited. And then Angus calls his mom, and his mom's like, no,
that's not what happens.
No, that's not what happens. That's earlier in the film.
No, so what happens...
They can't get a hold of his mom.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
Yeah, Angus isn't calling anyone at this point. Hunham is calling the parents. You know, Jonathan's in the room with Hunham and his father, who just landed the chopper, which they hinted at earlier in the film.
Yeah.
They teased it earlier where Jason's talking about how they're saying his father owns a helicopter company. He's like, oh, yeah, you could probably land a chopper down here. And then in a hilarious, ludicrous fantasy way, a helicopter comes and takes the other kids away.
Yeah.
The other parents approve of them taking them skiing on their trip. However, Paul Hunham cannot get a hold of Angus's parents earlier in the film, obviously to set up why Angus is holding over. It's very sad because he's bragging about not holding over. He actually makes fun of Kuntz for being a little orphan boy.
Christmas orphan with nowhere to go. He's like, my parents are renovating the house and they're storing all the tools in my bedroom. And he's like, idiot. No one renovates their house in winter. They don't want you home because you're an asshole. And so totally, I mean, Angus is making fun of this kid for staying home, and now he's the one that has to be a holdover because his mother has a new husband and they're taking their honeymoon now, even though they got married in July. They're basically just dumping. These kids get dumped here as students, but then also for the holdover year, all of these kids are getting dumped here because the parents either don't want to deal with them during the winter break, or I think Park's parents, they think that it's not worth him flying by himself just for the holidays to come home for a couple of weeks. And so then totally Angus is stuck holding over, but then the helicopter takes them all away. And now it's Hunham, Angus, and Mary, just the three of them and the caretaker alone in this building for 2 weeks now. But the joke is, and there's no dialogue, it's just a shot of the helicopter and the kids get inside and they're super excited. And then it cuts to Hunham and Angus looks miserable, and they're just watching the helicopter fly away. And then Hunham goes, well, let's make the best of it. It's so fucking
they
funny.
Just watch the helicopter fly away. It's fucking great.
One of the funniest things I've seen in years. It was so great. I love that moment so much.
It's really funny because it's so absurd, but it works so goddamn well.
The shot of the kids, and they shot from the other side of the glass of the window, and they're just like, It's great. I love it. I fucking love it. But also, I mean, there is, with the bullying and the back and forth, I wouldn't say there's a bully in this film. Like, the kids bully each other, especially the older kids.
That's what kids are like. Yeah. Teenagers are like.
And there's that, the photo, Angus's photo of him and his mom and dad that the other kid had taken. And that's what causes the big fight earlier before the helicopter takes them away. And you're seeing what is plaguing him. And that kid had written on the photo, fuckwad, with an arrow pointing towards Angus as a little kid.
I think he drew a mustache on it too.
Yeah. And it's really deeply affecting to Angus. He won't let them know that because that's like a representation of his happiest time with his parents when his dad was okay. And that's gone now. And so having that photo basically being ruined by that is really difficult for him. And that's just a hint. We don't, like you said, what's great about this film is you don't really know entirely what's plaguing the two male leads, because Mary, we know from the death of her son, we know that right off the bat, but it takes the entire film for us to learn what is truly at the core haunting Hunham and haunting Angus. And it's a great job of the screenplay of slowly revealing that to the audience.
Angus has a lot going on. He's told everyone his father's dead, and that's what everyone believes.
Yeah.
And then it's not until the second, third act of the film when he goes to find his dad. When they're watching the movie, he tries to sneak into the taxi, and he tells Hunham, I was going to come right back, I promise. And he's like, I just want to see my dad. He's like, well, of course we can go to a cemetery. And then that movie doesn't explain everything. They just show the car next driving. The taxi's driving, then it drives into a mental facility, a care home, and his father is there. And his father has paranoid schizophrenia. He has a lot of mental ailments, and he's not himself, and he's full of delusions. He thinks his food's poison, but the movie does a great job thinking that, there is a real connection here for the two of them, but there's really, on the other side, Angus is dying to connect with his father, but his father is just not there. And not only is Angus hiding the fact that his father's still alive, but he's also dealing with the fact that his family's broken, his mom married a new asshole, and also he's worried that he'll turn into his father, that the same ailments, the same mental disorders, and the same mental sickness will plague him later in his life. And it's a deep fear of his that he doesn't admit until after they see his father, and they're at the chateau, at the restaurant. And that scene opens with him afraid that he's going to become his father, but Hunham explained to him that you're not your father, you're not going to become your father, you're your own man.
Yeah, he's like, we're never our fathers entirely. It's a great
He says, my father, I'm not my father, no matter how hard he tried to beat that into me.
Yeah, great line. Also, can we talk about the broken collarbone?
It's a dislocated shoulder.
Did you watch this movie? Oh, no, I was just like, I've watched it 3 times. I've watched it 3 times, motherfucker.
It's a dislocated shoulder.
Dislocated shoulder. I love this scene, because first of all, I love him chasing after Angus, and Angus is skipping around the school, and Hunham's just struggling to keep up, and he starts running, but then a few shots later, he's like speed walking, and he's struggling with his breathing, and then they reach the gymnasium, and the floor had just been sealed over, and nobody can go inside of it, and Angus he jumps in there, runs in, jumps off the little bounce board, and then you hear just
I love when he stands up and he's like holding his arm like
it's the squealing and the screaming. Oh my god, I love it. And then the car ride to the hospital, it's just hysterical.
You said you washed your hands of me.
You said you washed your hands. I didn't mean it. It's a metaphor.
Well, I know you didn't literally mean you washed your hands. It's a really funny moment, and I want to talk about what led up to it and then the aftermath of it, because it's a really important scene in the movie, because actually, as much as it's their breaking point, it brings them together for the first time, really.
Yeah.
Now, before we continue, though, we got to get to our intermission. The best way to support Raiders of the Lost podcast is to become a patron at patreon.com/Raiders of the Lost podcast. The best way to support us because it financially supports this show. And in return, we give you all kinds of perks for as little as $10 for an annual membership. you can become a patron. You get access to ad-free versions of every single episode. You get access to bonus episodes, access to our Discord. Every tier has different perks, so go to patreon.com/Raiders of the Lost Podcast to check out those perks to see which one is best for you and your budget. Another great way to support the show. Leave those 5-star ratings and reviews on Spotify. All I want for Christmas is for everyone listening right now to go and leave a 5-star rating on Spotify, Apple, or subscribe on YouTube. These 3 things are the most important part of helping us grow as a show. They help build reputability. They help us get seen by new fans and new listeners. People discover us a lot more easily. We'll chart better. These podcast platforms will push us out better. So go leave those 5-star ratings and reviews and subscribe on YouTube. Thank you so much to everyone who already has. I'll read a written review out in just a minute. Another great way to support the show is just share us. It's the holiday season. Sharing is caring. Share us with your family and friends. Word of mouth is the best way for a podcast to grow organically. You know we're all about organic growth. So share us with your friends, family, anyone you know who loves movies.
Merry Christmas, everyone. Did you get the movie lover in your life a great Christmas present?
No.
Well, you know what you should get them, James.
What should I get
It's not too late, just because Christmas is over in a few hours.
Well, I know someone, they like movies, but I don't know what to get them.
You should get them, call me crazy, a movie poster.
That's a great idea. Where should I go?
Movieposters.com, of course.
Oh, that's right. I've heard of them.
Their promo code, Raiders10, gets you 10% off your order. So you can browse their website. They have pretty much every movie and TV show imaginable in their poster library, as well as all sorts of sizes, framing, and even backlighting for your poster needs. They got everything. If you love the Holdovers, if you love Christmas movies, they have every Christmas movie in their poster catalog. They have original prints. They have collector's items, lobby cards, cool alternate prints that you can't get anywhere else. This is high quality stuff. The best posters in the biz. And that price is made even more affordable thanks to our coupon code Raiders10. That'll get you 10% off your order right now. So go to movieposters.com for all of your poster needs and use that code today.
All right, everybody, let's get into our intermission and start with Framed.wtf, the movie website, the game site that gives you movie stills, and you have 6 guesses to guess what movie it is. Let's pull up this first image on today's Framed. Eventually when my phone loads it. All right, we have a close-up of, it's a Christmas movie, clearly, because it looks like a birth certificate of Kris Kringle. It's a close-up. I'm guessing this is Miracle on 34th Street.
Yeah, it must be.
Let's see.
Good guess.
The original. And I got it.
What a smart guy.
Miracle on 34th Street.
Miracle.
The 1934, or 43, I mean.
He has a birth certificate.
All right, now that was
pretty skinny
easy.
for Santa.
This is the old times when he was in shape.
Smoking cigarettes. Ripping butts.
No corn syrup was used. All right, let's get into the rest of our intermission. Start with the movie quote competition. Are you ready?
Ready.
When I'm around you, I kind of feel like I'm on drugs. Not that I do drugs, unless you do drugs, in which case I do them all the time. All of them.
I don't know.
Scott Pilgrim vs. the World.
Oh, yeah. In that case, I do all of them. All right, here's mine. It's not like I'm a lesbian or anything. I'm attracted to the person. It's just that all the people I've been attracted to happen to be girls.
I don't know. It's a really good line, though.
Election.
Oh.
Another Alexander Payne film.
Nice. Anthony, guess this movie release year. Easy A.
2009.
2010. What a good year in film. We should do that for an episode.
Yeah?
2010, a year in film.
All right. Good. Sounds good to me, man. Sounds good. James, what year did Sideways come out? The film you've not yet watched.
2004.
You know the release date, but you haven't even seen it. Make it make sense. Make that make sense.
I know things. I drink and I know things.
Is that a reference?
Yeah.
What's it from?
Game of Thrones.
Ah,
It's Tyrion.
yeah.
Yeah. Multiple times he says that. Anthony, guess. Oh, actually, movie pop quiz time. Who directed Iron Man 2?
Huh. It was Favreau.
Is that a question or an answer?
It was Favreau.
Yeah, it was Jon Favreau.
yeah.
I tried to trip him up.
Well, guess what? I'm still standing. I'm still standing
better
than I ever was.
Looking like a true survivor. Feeling like a little kid. Anyways.
I have a director question for you.
Oh, let's hear
see
it.
how you like it.
Is it like who directed this random movie?
Who directed As Good As It Gets? What's wrong? Don't you want to learn this new thing? You don't know it? Don't you want to learn this? Who directed this movie?
Simon
No.
Trelberg.
Come on. You don't know who directed this?
John Asmay. I don't know.
James L. Brooks, motherfucker.
Thank you for that information.
Get out of here. Get out of here. It's dumb how you say like you learned this because I forget everyone that you've done a question of.
Me too.
I can never remember them.
Besides Anthony, do we have any other haters this week?
Yeah, oh yeah, we got some good ones. First up, we have Joe Smith.
Sounds like a fake name. Just kidding. Great name.
Wait, this isn't an unsubscribe. Why did I screenshot it?
Why did you screenshot it?
Oh, it is an unsubscribe. It is. It's just a paragraph. Joe Smith wrote on best gothic horror movies. I watched 2 hours of amazing content, only to be let down by Morbius not even being on the list. Vampires, a horrifically made film, made me depressed when watching it. I'm going to have to unsubscribe. Great video, though. Looking forward to watching the number of movies that I haven't seen on this list. Awesome. That's a ton.
Thank you.
John wrote, he sent something in our DMs and he wrote, extremely late. I don't know how I never saw this. Oh, it was the Margot Robbie as Patrick Bateman for Vogue or YouTube. Don't know how I hadn't seen it. So I sent it to you guys just in case. Now I won't unsubscribe. Next up, we had a great meme made by Aaron. And it was James Bond. And it said, did you see it?
Is it the Home Alone one?
No. So this one was a photo of Craig as Bond, and it said, Bond, the name's James Bond. Bond, the name's James Bond, which is how you said it.
I remember seeing, but it was like how James thinks the ending of Casino Royale is.
It's how what James thinks Bond says. His famous line. Bond, the name's James Bond.
I flubbed it.
He doesn't even know the second most famous line in cinema. Unsubscribed. From Joshua. Oh, that was great. It's such a funny meme. Next up, we got Storm on Casino Royale. Spoiler warning, by the way, guys. Sorry. I didn't know Bond dies in No Time to Die. Unsubscribed.
Oh, man. What?
Sorry. That was James. That was not me. Throwing James under the bus for that one.
I thought everyone knew.
Biddo. About a year and a half. I still can't tell which brother is which, so I'm going to blame James.
Whoa.
I haven't seen No Time to Die. Thanks for that spoiler. Unsubscribe.
It's all over the internet for months. People were complaining for months. Come on, y'all were going to watch it if you haven't seen it yet.
No, it's only been out for a year.
2 years.
No, it was 2023.
No Time to Die?
Yeah. Right? 2023?
Yeah. No, 2021, bro.
What?
Come on.
No.
2021, man. That movie's been out for almost 4 years now.
I'd say 5 years is a good window.
Oh, now we're putting a number on it now?
This
for
one,
a James Bond movie, that's like saying you didn't know that people dissolved in Infinity War, though. Everyone
They did?
knows. That's like spoiler warning. Spoiler warning. That's like not knowing that Tony Stark didn't die in Avengers. I love y'all so much, but
He died?
I felt like it's common enough knowledge. Such a huge character, and they're rebooting it. I figured that spoiler was safe.
Apparently not.
Apparently not. I'm wrong. I'm an asshole.
James, you're fired.
No wonder I'm the bad guy now.
This one's for me, if it makes you feel better. JT Loving Good. Pavlov's gun. You mean Chekhov's gun?
Pavlov's dog. What episode did you say that in?
In Casino Royale.
I don't even remember that.
Pavlov trained the dogs to salivate at the sound of a bell. Get your facts straight or I will unsubscribe.
Pavlov's gun. That's funny.
Drew Dubs, you thought the framed frame was from An Unexpected Journey. It's Desolation of Smaug. Unsubscribed. Oh, man, this is funny stuff. Yeah, that's it for our unsubscribes this week. Those are hilarious. Thanks to everybody for putting a smile on our face and roasting James. We love it.
Honestly, I'm shocked. I can't believe No Time to Die came out in 2021.
I thought it was, I don't know.
It feels like it came out last year. It does.
Yeah. It does feel like it. This is
so long ago.
How is that possible?
Time. A lot's happened since then.
Like, I don't believe it, but I know you must be right because you read it from the fucking internet. I mean,
I don't think IMDb.
Yeah, I don't think IMDb is ever wrong. But like, I need to see it for myself. I still need to just look at it myself. Yeah, 2021. Wow.
You really didn't believe me?
No, I believed you, but I just needed to just like see it.
So you didn't believe me?
I believed you. I told you I believed you.
You know what I believe? That.
What do you believe in?
I'm gonna read a 5-star
review. What do you believe in?
So this is from Kassam546. Best movie podcast reviewers, 5 stars. James and Anthony are fun to listen to. I hear them every morning when I'm at work, and the banter and jokes between the two brothers are hilarious. The deep dive in specific scenes and meaning in movies are on point. By the way, drinking game every time they say aesthetic in the movie. You're fucked for this one in the last episode.
Yeah, we did it quite a bit.
We say aesthetic quite a lot.
Thanks, pal. Great review.
Kassam, thank you so much for that 5-star written review on Apple Podcasts.
Amazing
That's
stuff.
the best Christmas present I've gotten.
Aw. That's pretty... I mean, maybe you'll get something physical in
I have
real
presents
life.
under the tree.
Oh, you have presents under the tree?
Presents aren't all about... Gifts aren't just about physical things, Anthony.
What?
A gift can be time. A gift can be a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts.
Oh, yeah.
You know, not everything's about presents, Anthony.
I didn't say it was.
And physical things, materialism. Look at you consumer.
I'm not a consumer. I just deleted my Amazon Prime, motherfucker.
So yeah, okay.
I don't even have Amazon Prime.
Can you explain this to me? So you I thought you meant you just got rid of Prime Video, which doesn't make sense for me because it comes with the subscription of Amazon Prime.
I told you I was getting rid of my Prime.
So you're getting rid of Amazon Prime for shipping as well.
I don't have it right now. I don't have it.
So if you need socks, you're just gonna go to Macy's
or Target.
Or Target. You're just gonna go to Target.
Yeah. I just got socks at Target 2 weeks ago. I'm good on socks.
Because he came into my room the other night. You're like, hey, can you order this cable?
I needed a very specific thing.
Can you order this on Amazon? I'm like, in my head, I'm like, why doesn't he just order the cable himself on Amazon? But then I'm like, he's not great with techie stuff, so maybe he doesn't know where to find the cable. But I was like, okay, I'll do it for you, no problem. But then I realized that you deleted your Amazon Prime.
Yeah, I looked at Target; they didn't have the cable, and their closest Radio Shack is so far. But it was a very specific kind of item.
Radio Shack's still a thing.
Yeah, there's still some around.
Yeah, well, it's an old. You needed an RCA cable.
Yeah, an old cable,
red, yellow,
so,
white RCA cables.
The thing with. So I deleted all my subscriptions. I'm taking a break from subscriptions, and I'm just doing physical media for a while. But also,
we know you talk about it all the time.
Like twice.
Every Letterboxd recap. So I rented this movie, 4K UHD Ultra.
Literally one Letterboxd recap because I just did it.
Physical media.
It's been a week and a half.
Then
that's an absolute
review.
lie.
So I also rented this other movie,
Absolute
physical
lie.
media, 4K Ultra
Absolute
Blu-ray.
lie.
It looked incredible.
It was one episode I've talked about it because I just did it, motherfucker. Every episode.
Sorry, continue.
But I was also like, not just for streaming, but also I believe that Amazon Prime makes us bigger consumers where we buy things we don't necessarily need because, it's a good price and, I need this. And I think that for me as a buyer, absolutely, I've bought things that I didn't need, that I don't use so many times just because it was easy and Prime makes it so easy and accessible and affordable that you're buying stuff when maybe you wouldn't even, if you were in a store, you wouldn't buy it. So you're more likely to buy stuff on Prime. And you're more likely to buy stuff you don't need on Prime.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's also the reason why I want to stop.
Yeah, I've been pretty good the last year or two about not buying stuff I don't need.
What about that tricycle? The tricycle in the backyard.
The tricycle just looks great. I saw that. I said, why have I never ridden a tricycle before? I still haven't ridden it yet, but
you needed it though. You needed it.
Needed it. Like what kinds of things do I buy on? Well, I did a lot of Prime purchasing for the movie and a lot of Prime.
Oh yeah, that was great
returning.
for that. But like in the last few months, what have you bought on Prime?
Let me check my Prime. This is like looking at your search history. Let's see. Charging cable for my phone, needed that. calendar. I got mom a Christmas present. I got a new phone case. I got coffee, book, face moisturizer. I got another book, toothpaste, root beer.
So you couldn't. You can get all this stuff in the store.
Yeah, but why? But it's right here on my phone.
Exactly.
Why would I leave the house? No, but you're acting like I didn't need that stuff. Like I needed.
No.
This.
These are pretty. I mean, root beer. I don't think is an essential purchase, but
Well, I would have just gotten that at the store. But I was like, I'll just get the root beer right now.
that's what. Yeah, but
For me, I'm not buying stuff I don't use though. Like I got the fly killers. I got that on Amazon.
no. Let's look at the last. I mean, if we looked at the last 2 years, there's definitely stuff you don't use.
Yeah, but that's acting like you've never been to a store and never bought something that you didn't need.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying you're more likely to buy something because it's on Prime. Is what
Sure,
I'm saying.
But
And also, you're
I'm
paying
pretty good about not buying
and
stuff
then
that I don't
paying
need.
for a membership, $15 a month, when you could have just gotten it at the store.
Yeah, but you're paying for convenience.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's
I don't
fucking
need
sick.
I don't need the convenience anymore.
It's fucking dope. I don't have to go to Target to get socks.
You're already there when you go to the gym.
So I
Target's a 2-minute walk from the
Yeah, but
1
then
minute walk.
but then like you forget that you need socks. But Prime,
write it down.
it's convenience, man. That's what this is. It's convenience.
So you're paying $15 a month because you can't remember to get socks yourself.
Not that I can't. No, it's not that I can't remember. It's just like, oh, I need this. Let me just order it, and it'll be at my door in 2 days.
Yeah.
And also, I'm paying for Prime Video, which I use a lot. I use Prime Video a lot.
But I kept renting videos on Prime, so I'm paying for the membership and I'm paying $4 for a rental.
I think it's worth it for me for the two-day shipping.
Yeah, so I mean,
1 day.
yeah,
Sometimes
it's your life.
I ordered a new charging cable for my phone the other day. It came in 2 hours.
You could have gotten it in 30 minutes.
What? No, I couldn't have. I could not have gotten it in 30 minutes.
Yeah, you could have.
No, I
could
couldn't
have gotten it
have.
in 15 minutes. You could have gotten
No,
it.
I couldn't. There's no way I could have gotten a Mac charge, an iPhone charging cable in 30 minutes.
At Target.
Nuh-uh.
Yeah, huh?
It's still, that would take me round trip 45.
What are you talking about? 45 minutes? Are you kidding me? It's a 7-minute drive. You're insane.
So
You're conflating reality right now.
But look, I didn't have to.
45
I didn't have to do it though. I didn't have to go.
I know what I'm saying, but I'm saying you're bragging about 2 hours. You would have done it faster on your own, is what I'm saying.
That's not. No, I wouldn't have. I did it faster because I didn't have to do anything. It took me 14 seconds. What do you mean? It took me 14 seconds.
Well, you
to
were
get-
bragging about 2 hour window, but I'm saying you would have gotten it faster. Like if you just the next time you go to the gym, you get your cable while you're there.
It would not have been faster.
No.
It took seconds versus. At least if you're saying your half-hour thing's right, sure. Seconds versus half hour. What's it?
45 minutes. You know,
I forgot about the close
that's
target.
bullshit.
I forgot about the close one.
What target were you thinking
The
of?
the farther one away, the one in Eagle Rock.
45 minutes.
Well, you got to park. You got to walk in.
Oh my
You got to
God.
find it. I like to walk around Target. I like to browse.
I'm trying to get back into not always relying on apps for everything.
Hey, I'm not criticizing. You do whatever you want, man. It's cool.
Sounds
man.
like you're criticizing.
I'm not. I'm just curious.
It sounds very
I'm
critical.
not criticizing. No, you're criticizing me.
I'm not criticizing.
Yeah, you are. You're looking down on me on your pedestal of not having a subscription
I did
anymore.
not look
You are
down on
on.
you.
You're high and mighty.
I'm just trying to debate. Is
You're-
all. It's a debate.
Now you're changing the
Well,
word
no,
from
no.
criticize to debate.
Well, see, I criticize you because you make up lies of a 45-minute drive to Target.
A 45-minute round trip, it's possible it would take that long.
Fuck that, man.
Because if I want to get my iPhone charger, at first I was thinking about I had to go to a Mac store, but there's a Target. Target has Mac chargers,
yes,
I believe.
yeah,
Yeah,
they have everything. Yeah,
But no, but I buy the Mac version. I don't buy knockoff chargers.
you get the real deal.
Yeah,
the real
exactly.
one.
I don't know if they have them at Target, do they?
Yeah, I was just there. They have all sorts of computer stuff.
No, but
and
chargers. Did you walk through the section and say, "Oh, look, that is an Apple brand"?
I don't think Target sells the knockoff Amazon brand from China.
Fuck yeah, they do.
No, I don't
Are you
think
kidding
so.
me?
I don't know.
Yeah, they do.
Nah.
Yes, they do. They sell knockoff everything.
Really?
Yes, dude.
Oh.
Most of that stuff is knockoff brand.
I didn't know LG was a knockoff brand.
What else do you use for a lightning cable for? Besides an iPhone? Nothing.
Computers.
iPhone computer products.
Yeah.
Apple products
Yeah,
only.
yeah.
So the lightning to USB or lightning USB-C.
Yeah, from an iPad.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
If it's not an Apple brand, it's a knockoff.
Yeah.
Because that's an Apple cable. They invented that cable.
I'm not sure. Well, I'm saying I'm not sure they have knockoff lightning cables.
They 1,000% do. 1,000,000% do.
Why are you so confident?
Because I've seen them there.
Really?
Yes.
Well, I can't wait to look next time I'm
You
there.
should. I'll go with you. You want to go after this episode? I will take you right to it.
No, we don't have 45 minutes, man.
I will
I
spend
don't have enough time to go to Target
I'll spend
today.
the 45 minutes to prove a point.
I don't have 45 minutes to drive it out a mile away. It's too far.
I forgot about that one. They also don't have a big electronics section. I was thinking about the big one. But no, first I was thinking about I had to go to Apple store.
To the brand.
Because Apple stores are usually just...
That's a 45-minute drive.
Yeah, exactly.
That's 45 minutes round trip.
trip.
Yeah.
Easy.
Yeah.
Easy peasy.
I'll give you that. I'll
Yeah.
give you that.
That's what I was thinking of when I said 45-minute round trip. Anyways,
we get back
I'm
to
going to
the
keep
episode?
my Amazon subscription, which in a lot of ways is a prescription. Let's get back to our intermission.
But you were the one who were being an asshole first about
I was
Letterboxd.
not.
Yeah. You were the one who's like, he talks about his physical media
yeah,
on
the physical
Letterboxd.
media,
You
yeah.
started it.
Oh, yeah.
You started the criticizing.
Yeah. I was
Okay.
criticizing the shit out of you for
So
that.
yeah, you started the criticizing.
Yeah, you got to get off your pedestal.
I wasn't on a pedestal.
Physical media and no subscription pedestal.
You're
over
the one
here.
you literally said you canceled your Amazon, didn't you?
No, I didn't.
You attacked me.
No, I was curious about the Amazon. I brought it up as a fun discussion. I was like, oh yeah, that's right. You canceled your Amazon. I was curious. I'm like, and I probed you. Not probed you. Probed you is a negative word. I was inquisitive.
Insightfully inquisitive.
About why. I was insightfully inquisitive about why you canceled your Amazon. I asked very calmly, and then
I'm pretty sure you're like, you canceled your Amazon, did you?
that's not what I said. That's not how I said it.
You were not insightfully inquisitive.
Yes, I was. I was very polite and cordially, insightfully inquisitive.
Were you insightfully inquisitive about Letterboxd recap?
What about it?
Every episode, he's like, I rented this.
Oh,
I got this.
no, you're right.
Yeah.
You got me there.
Yeah.
I'm talking specifically about asking about your Amazon. I was like, oh, could be a fun discussion. Let's chat about Anthony canceling his Amazon. I wonder why he did that.
Let me be insightfully inquisitive.
And then you came after me because, I can't drive anywhere.
No, not true. I came after you because you said it took 45 minutes to get to Target.
Round trip.
Not true.
Anyways, what's your streaming recommendation for this episode?
Klaus on Netflix.
Klaus.
Klaus on Netflix. It's
Mine's. Well, Anthony can't watch this one. Well, you can't even watch Klaus unless you go rent it.
I rented About a Boy
What's your
last night.
physical media recommendation, Anthony?
I rented About a Boy last night. It was
you go.
great. It
That's
was
better.
a fucking great movie.
Yeah.
It was really funny and sweet.
Oh man, that one.
I've never seen it. I loved it. I really loved it. It was Hugh Grant's great. It was awesome.
All right, my streaming recommendation, which Anthony can't watch, is Die Hard because it's on Prime, Disney, Tubi, and Roku right now.
It's everywhere.
It's everywhere. All right.
Well, they have the 4K UHD at the rental store. I almost got it. But I was like, no, I'll watch something new.
All right, let's get back into the Holdovers. The last thing we were talking about was the hilarious sequence of Angus running from Paul. And basically this starts because after the helicopter, after they go away, they have dinner. Angus goes into the side to go try to make a phone call, trying to get a hotel room. And then him and Paul chew each other out, and they get into a fight. And Hunham starts threatening him with detentions. And then Angus knows this is all BS. This is all ridiculous. Like, why are we even here still? So he runs away. And so many inside jokes link up with this, with the lacquered floor on the basketball court and how they're not supposed to go in there. And I think that the basketball courts is just a great metaphor for the control that Angus is about to break, the control of the school and of authority on him, because there's so many rules to Barton boys, so many rules that these boarding schools have, and this ridiculous rule where they can't go into the gym, which the door's open. You can walk on the gym, but they're not allowed in because it's been freshly lacquered and it's just been built. But why can't he go in? There shouldn't be a reason why he can't go in there and go exercise and go have fun and play around. So he just says, basically, I'm crossing the Rubicon. Don't cross the Rubicon! And that leads to that. But then, again, this is at their most angsty moment. They're battling against each other here. Everything's blowing up. But then they really connect. They have a moment of connection where they're at the hospital. Ironically, Paul is worried about losing his job. He's like, this is going to be the end. Your parents are going to find out. The school's going to find out I'm going to get fired, which obviously is ironic because he gets fired later on protecting Angus. And then Angus comes up with the lie where, oh, this is my father. My parents are divorced. can we skip the insurance thing? You know, if my mom found out, she'll kill him. It'll be so much worse. I never get to see him, and they get away scot-free without doing the insurance, so no one has to find out about the dislocated shoulder.
I love in a later scene, the janitor goes up to him in the dining hall. He's like, I found some vomit in the gymnasium.
I just saw the damnedest thing in the basketball court. Somebody vomited all over the floor.
You guys know anything about that?
I know nothing about that. Then he puts the mop and bucket right next to Angus.
It's great.
Got your damn mind.
It's great. And I love the bar scene they go to the winning ticket bar, and this is where, you know, Hunham, he's a lonely guy. You can only imagine the last time he was with a woman, and he almost had a long-term relationship and lifelong partner, but it didn't work out. And he has a crush on Lydia, and she seems to really like him. And Angus notices oh no, she's into you. And then Hunham is like, oh, there might be, you know, a little fling here, and I can bat the flames of this. Unfortunately, it ends up not working out, because when they go to her Christmas party, he learns very quickly that she has a boyfriend. And it's like, these scenes are really important for the audience to empathize with Hunham. Because, yeah, he's an asshole to the kids, and he's super negative, and he's curmudgeon. But he's still just a human being. He's still just a guy. And when you see him realize that, oh, this girl I like is never going to be with me, that's a blow. And the way Giamatti plays it with, his face drops and he looks away, it's those scenes like that make the audience love the character when he seems unlovable at first.
And I'm glad you brought up the restaurant scene, because this movie has so many undertones and under context of war, specifically the Vietnam War, and how it affects different classes of society. So the church has etchings of Barton boys who gave their lives to war. And Curtis Lamb, Mary's son, is the most recent Barton boy to have died at Vietnam and died in war. He went to Barton. He didn't go on scholarship. He didn't go because of his grades. He went there because his mother was a cook there, and she got that job to ensure that he'd have a better future. Ironically, despite being a Barton boy, he didn't get into a great college yet, but he could on a GI Bill. He could go to college on a GI Bill if he went to war. So that's what his plan was, versus these other kids. You know, Hunham says, Barton boys, they don't go to Vietnam. And even Angus asks Hunham after dinner, after they have their burgers and Miller Lights, the champagne or beers. He says, why didn't Curtis Lamb went to Vietnam? Why did Curtis Lamb? And he says, exactly. Why did Curtis Lamb go to Vietnam? Why did he go to war? But none of the other Barton boys have to go to war, because they just get to go to Ivy League schools, to get to go to their futures at colleges that their fathers went to, their grandfathers went to, their uncles, their family went to. They're already grandfathered in already. So they have a path that's already laid out before them. But someone like Hunham, someone like Curtis Lamb, they don't. They have to earn it in a different way. And these kids, these young guys in the restaurant, you know, Angus, he's been around these wealthy kids his whole life. He's a wealthy kid. He doesn't understand exactly what these classes are like. He's not exposed to it very often. But then he's rude to these kids who are Vietnam War vets. One kid who's had his arm blown off. And I think that seems important for Angus to understand why Curtis went to school and why these kids, you know, they went to war instead of other kids. All these wealthy kids don't go to war. But the poorer kids, people in lower classes, they're the ones that have to go to war.
They live in the same area, but they didn't get to go to that school. And then also, an important moment of that scene is when, because he put his quarter down to save his spot, and then when he sees that the guy's arm was missing, he offered to, use my quarter, and that offends the guy even more. He doesn't understand why that offends him.
No, that's not what happened. What happens is he puts his dime down. The other guy, there's a guy already playing, and his buddy has next game. And because Angus is being told no, they get into an argument about him wanting to play. He's like, I followed the rules. You're supposed to put a dime down, and that means I'm next. And then he makes a rude joke to the guy who has his arm blown off, and his arm is in a sling. And he says, you can be my left hand. And that's what Angus does. He resorts to humor as a defense mechanism, not realizing that's probably the most offensive thing he could have said to the guy, which results in him almost getting his ass kicked by those guys, then Hunham buying them a beer to chill them out.
Yeah.
But again, going back to how you say Hunham, he's so articulate and so intelligent. He doesn't communicate well with people. He says, well, we'll make this go by the way of the dodo. And the guys are like, what the hell did you say?
It's an extinct bird.
And then Lydia's like, he's saying he wants to buy you guys a beer. And so it's an important scene, I think, for all characters, but for Angus specifically to really understand that not everyone grew up the world he grew up in, despite the fact that he's almost going to get kicked out of that world. He's pushing that world away. All he wants is a family and to be accepted by a family, and he obviously wants his father. But also, he's at risk of getting kicked out of the school, going to Fork, which is a military academy, if he screws up again.
I also really love the scene between Mary and Hunham when she's watching the dating game show on TV and invites him into the lounge. I think this is important because there's so much screen time between Angus and Paul for Mary and Paul to have this screen time and this bonding and connection. And to see her, I think this is a scene where Hunham sees her not just as a member of the staff and not just a cook in the kitchen. He sees her as a mother. He sees her as a woman in the world rather than employed by the school. And it's these moments that really lead into the tragedy of Mary's life, which comes into its most harsh moment during the Christmas party when she ends up getting too drunk and hounds the record player, and she's only playing the music that her and her son Curtis like to dance to and listen to. And then she has that breakdown in the kitchen. And I love the scene because it's like they're at this party, mostly all strangers, and Mary's having a breakdown in the kitchen, and it's Paul and Angus are there kind of like her family to help her and to comfort her. And it's a great moment because I love they're so specific with the production design and costuming of this film. It's the little touches that make all the difference in the world. If you look at that scene again, Mary's shoes are off. She's barefoot. It's like she's like, I can't. You can imagine, like, we don't see it, but she's probably like, I can't stand in these heels anymore. You know what I mean? And it makes sense. Like she's just done. She can't do this night anymore. It makes sense she would have taken her heels off. It's things like that most filmmakers, I don't think, would put specifically into their film. But it's those little tiny details that, for us as viewers, make all the difference in the world.
Apparently, Angus is a little player. He hooks up. He kisses this girl at this party in the basement with all the other kids. Their finger
in 30 minutes,
and then he also is chatting up the girls in the bowling alley. He's a little player. Excuse me, all that laughing just
me too.
Fucked up my throat. And it's a tough scene, especially at the end of the scene where they're walking Mary out.
Yeah.
And Angus brings up the fact that his father's dead, which Paul Hunham didn't know at the time yet. And Mary kind of curses him out for a minute. But then they have, Paul, despite the fact that he can be a Scrooge, he is trying to an extent. He feels bad about this night. And so in the morning, it's Christmas morning after the Christmas Eve party. And he goes and finds Angus, who's playing piano. And then I also love the night Angus has by himself, where he's wandering the halls and he's eating ice cream. He finds the priest's wine, and it's really cute. But he finds Angus playing piano. He's actually worried about him. He's like, "Where is he? Have you seen the boy? I can't find him anywhere." And they have Christmas breakfast, and he presents them a tree with no ornaments. So he's trying, but he still doesn't understand the spirit of, you could say, humanity, and the spirit of family, and the spirit of Christmas, because he thinks that the tree's enough, despite the fact that it has no ornaments, has no decorations. Even Angus is like, there's no decorations on it, there's no ornaments.
But you can't have seen Hunham in the opening scene of the movie doing something like this.
Exactly.
You would have never thought he would do something like this.
Yeah, and he gives them both a Christmas present, gives them both meditations, gives Mary a bottle of booze as well. But when Mary opens up her book, she's like, you just give this to everybody. For my money, it's better than the Bible, the Quran, anything. And no mention of the God that I despise or I don't believe in.
The irony is God is mentioned in Marcus Aurelius' Meditations many times. So it's actually ironical. And then one of the better sequences of the film is the trip. Driving to Boston. It's Angus is desperate to leave and go to Boston. Like, that would be the best Christmas gift he could give him.
His mother promised they'd go.
Yeah. And then drops Mary off at her house, and I love the scene of having Angus carry all the stuff up the multiple flights of stairs.
It's her sister's apartment in Roxbury.
And then the powerful scene of when she gets into the spare bedroom, she begins setting up her things, and on the dresser, she lays out the baby clothes of her son Curtis. And when you see her do that, and she did such a great job as a performer, and you just feel the loss, you feel the tragedy, and there's no breakdown scene, there's no huge monologue, there's none of that BS that we've gotten a million times that doesn't feel real. It's this silent moment by herself with the clothes of her dead child that is more powerful and resonant than any kind of dialogue could have been.
And Paul and Angus, they have a great trip. You know, they're staying at the hotel, they go to the museums, they go to the movies. They have that funny library scene with the sex worker who's trying to get a candy cane. Oh, Daddy can have a candy cane. They go ice skating, which is really fun. But then they run into an old student, a classmate of Paul's from Harvard. This guy who's very successful. He's doing statistics at Harvard, tenure, very successful professor. But Angus notices that Hunham is lying about everything, saying he's studying abroad, mostly abroad. And then Angus feeds into it. He's like, tell him about your book, Uncle. It's about ancient cameras. Oh, well, light and magic in the ancient world. And the guy says, I'm so happy to see that you landed on your feet. And then Angus grills him about it. And then we learn that story about the guy, his former roommate, who stole his work and put it off as his own. And then Hunham got kicked out and became adjunct facility, less pay. Only the old headmaster, who he looks up to so much, had known about that and gave him a shot because he believed in him as a teacher.
He would never be able to get a teaching job.
Exactly,
for him.
Which is probably why he sticks so hard to the traditions of that headmaster at Barton, because he owes him so much. And over the last couple of decades, you know, it's just soured him to reinventing himself as a teacher. But we also learn more stuff. We learn more. Angus takes medication for depression, and it's funny because after Hunham confronts him about it, asking him curiously, he takes one of the pills himself, which is funny. They go bowling, and then obviously the movie theater where they go to see his dad, and Angus brings him
also candlepin bowling.
Yeah, candlepin bowling.
The skinny pins, tiny balls. This is Massachusetts bowling for anyone.
New England and Canada, they do.
This is what we do.
Candlepin bowling. It's a little different. And there's actually that great funny conversation at the bar where the bartender is like, we don't do none of that 10-pin bowling. It's too easy. We do candlepin bowling, you know. It's real bowling here. It's funny because I've had that conversation with people all the time. But you know, they go to see the father, but this going to see his father comes back to really the most difficult scene in the film, where his parents found out because Angus gave his dad a snow globe.
Yeah, it bites him in the ass. And also, I love the scene in the chateau, the restaurant, and they're trying to order the dessert, but she's like, I'm sorry, there's alcohol in it. He can't have it. And they're like, come on, just give us the ingredients. Why can't we do this? And
Mary's like, doesn't it just get kicked? It gets cooked out. She's like, you still can't allow it.
So then they just order it on the side, and then they cook it outside.
They order cherries and ice cream to go, and then they put brandy on it, and they light the fire in the box on top of the car. But the fire is too great, and so they have to like kick it out. It's
hilarious. It's sensational.
And when they go back to school, Hunham gets called from Lydia to go to the headmaster's office, Harding, and she says it's pretty serious and urgent. So he goes, but then he doesn't think anything of it until he sees Angus outside the headmaster's office. He goes in, the parents are there. Parents are irate that he took them to
go. Mary Swanson.
Huh?
It's Mary Swanson.
Is it really?
Yeah.
What?
It's Mary Swanson.
Whoa, that is mind-blowing. Judy Clotfelter. Holy effing shit.
Samsonite.
Are you kidding me? That is Mary Swanson.
Yep. From Dumb and Dumber, for anyone who isn't catching it.
Are you?
She's got a lot of like bit roles in recent movies. And this is one of them.
Are you sure?
It looks like her.
Oh, you didn't look this up? No, it's not her.
It's not her?
No.
I was just pulling it out of my ass.
Yeah, that's why I like to fact check Anthony. That's not her.
Oh, no? Damn. Looks like her.
I mean, kind of, yeah. You had me going, man. Not really anymore after you look at another photo. Anyways, parents are upset. Parents are upset. Fake news, Anthony.
She's in Snack Shack.
Parents are upset because now they have the burden of having to move his father, and his stepfather's really pissed off. His stepfather's like, we should just send him to military school. But then, to protect Angus, Hunham takes full responsibility, says it was his idea. He took him to see his father, and then he gets fired because of it by the headmaster. And as they're leaving the office, I love how he goes to Harding. He says, Harding, I've known you for almost your entire life, which gives me the right, I believe, to say that you are, in fact, penis cancer in human form.
Fucking great line. The audience went crazy for that. That was hilarious. And also, Hunham proves that he knows her son better than they do.
Yeah.
He sees Angus's potential, his creativity, his potential, whereas they just keep stifling it. And in a way, he's seen the true Angus that his mother and stepfather have basically not even noticed.
Yeah. He's a very intelligent kid. Yeah. And if they do this, they're going to lose him forever, basically.
Yes, it will ruin him. Yeah,
it'll ruin him. He has to have a chance. You have to actually help. You have to be a parent, basically, because they're just dumping him away. A lot of these parents, they're just stashing their kids away so they don't have to deal with them. They don't have to raise them. Yeah. Someone else is raising their kid. Someone else is teaching their kid. Sure, they see him for the summer breaks and then for the Christmas, but these kids who are holding over, their parents are just stashing them there.
And then they use the pretense of, it's best for their future as a way of justifying it.
Yeah. It's the same thing with Dead Poets Society and those kids there. Yeah. The same kind of flaw of the parents deciding your future for you. And it's a terrific ending to this movie. And Angus doesn't exactly know what went on, but he knows that he's not getting kicked out. But Hunham got fired, and he's smart, so he deduces it, obviously. And I love the scene when Hunham's he's packing up his apartment, and Mary visits him. Mary brings him the empty journal for the monograph, as well as...
And he's going to Carthage.
Yeah, he's going to go to Carthage, and she's really excited for him. And she also reveals that her sister is going to name their child, if it's a boy, Curtis.
And I love the goodbye between him and Angus. It's heartfelt, but it's not too much. You know, they kept it short and sweet.
The bottle that he stole from Harding,
the nice one. Yeah, the Crown.
So he stole the bottle of booze, and as a fuck you, basically, to the school and the institution, he takes a sip and he spits it out. So he doesn't actually drink it, and then he drives away.
Yeah. I like to think he drinks it.
No, he spits it out.
No, I like this. He's drinking it after that.
Oh, maybe.
That's all right.
I mean, he's gonna drink it probably.
Yeah,
he's an alky.
Yeah.
I don't think he's drinking it while he's driving.
Maybe.
But basically, he's giving a fuck you to the school. It's an act of rebellion, you know? Something that he probably would have done in his youth. That he hasn't thought about doing for 40 years because of tradition and what the headmaster did for him and what he's become. But now he's become much more youthful.
Alexander Payne did a great job in this film of setting up jokes and then slowly revealing the punchlines.
Oh, 1,000%. Yeah,
there's so many of those little jokes they set up in the first half and then knock them back in the second half.
Yeah, it's so really great. So many. Yeah. Especially, I think the eye thing is the best.
Yeah, the eye. We didn't even talk about the eye.
Getting close, you know, when they're bowling, Angus asks Hunham, he's like, all right, so you got to let me know, which eye do I look at? I mean, I don't, like, is it that one or is it that one? And Hunham doesn't answer. But what happens is he answers when he comes out of the headmaster's office after he's been fired, and he goes to Angus, and he says, this one. This is the one you should look at. That's all he says to him, and then he walks away. Because he's got the lazy eye.
Yeah. The lazy eye looked so great, and they used...
It was outrageous in some shots.
Yeah, it was so funny. And while I was watching this, I was like, it can't be CGI. It's too perfect. It looks too good. And they used a certain contact lens, and I think just it looks fantastic, and it was one of my favorite character traits. And it's kind of like as an audience member, you kind of feel like people do around him, where you're like, which one do I look at while you're watching the movie?
Yeah.
And I thought it was such a great character trait, and it was also just super funny in moments like that. But it looked amazing, and I thought That was one of the things during the film. I was just like, is this real or is this CGI? And then I was like, wait, does Paul Giamatti have a lazy eye? Has his
search results for that, or like people are searching that like crazy?
Has his eye gotten lazy in years? Like, I don't understand. I'm trying to figure it out. And then it was revealed that it was a lens.
I was watching an interview with him after this movie came out. And he's talking about his best friend for his like entire life. They're still best friends. Watched the movie, and he revealed to Paul that he was watching the movie, and they thought, wait, does Paul actually have a lazy eye? He's like, my best friend didn't even know whether or not I had a lazy eye.
I questioned it too. I was like, wait, does Giamatti always have this eye? Have I just never noticed this?
Yeah, exactly.
I was like in my head, I was like, maybe he always had a slight lazy eye, but now it's just gotten more pronounced as he's gotten older. I was contemplating that in my head. But it was great. They did a great job. It's the simplest thing, but it looks great.
Yeah, but that's such a great joke to end on, because I think so many movies, especially the last 15 years, they ruin a lot of great dramatic moments with unnecessary quips and humor that, are kind of funny but take away from the dramatic moment. But this is a joke that it's more emotional than it's an emotional joke, where it's a joke because it's harkening back to something that I was asked earlier, and it's funny. But in the moment, he probably never tells anyone what eye to look at. It's a moment of revelation that he's connecting with Angus with. Like, you know what? I respect you, and I understand that. He probably realizes, I've become a father figure in a lot of ways for this kid. This is the eye you should look at. I don't tell anyone this, but I'm going to tell you it. So it's a joke, but also it's a really great moment of connection between the two of them.
That's great writing because it's about subtext and not what's really being said. Yes, what's being said is you look at this eye, but the subtext of that is you and I are bonded and we're closer than I'm closer with you than I feel with anybody else. That's what he's really being said. But Payne, being a great writer, knows that most of the time you don't have to have your characters say what's on their mind. And so you do this little bit about which eye to look at, and that tells the audience and the character everything that needs to be said, just with 2 lines of dialogue. It's about subtext.
And it's a great ending. It reminds me of Good Will Hunting.
Sure. For sure.
There isn't much said. Good Will Hunting, obviously, it's just a note that he leaves for him.
Son of a bitch stole my line.
And then he drives off, and I love the end of Good Will Hunting of Will just driving off to California for like 5 minutes. And this movie ends a similar way. Not much is said between the two characters, and then one just drives away. And it's a really great ending. I think it's a perfect ending as well.
Yeah, I think it's just a perfect movie. And again, it makes me think of Good Will Hunting. It makes me think of Outside Providence and Dead Poets Society, while also being a holiday film for Christmas. And it's a great New England movie. It's a great Massachusetts movie. I love everything about this film. And it was just like, I really liked the trailer, but 10 minutes into this movie, I was like, this is fantastic.
Dude, it got me in a minute. In a minute, I'm like, this is fantastic.
I was like, it got me 2 seconds in. I was like, this is fantastic.
When I was still watching the trailers for Craven the Hunter back in 2021, I thought this was fantastic.
On the drive to the theater, I was like, man, this is fantastic.
What a masterpiece. As Anthony was canceling his Amazon subscription, this movie's fantastic. Great film. Great film.
Oh, man, that's funny as hell.
All right, well, we hope you all had a wonderful Christmas. Happy Hanukkah. Happy Kwanzaa. Everything, whatever you're celebrating this holiday season, this month, and the next month. We're wishing you the best. We hope you all have a happy new year. We'll see you before then. But in the meantime, we hope you enjoyed this breakdown and review of the wonderful film, The Holdovers. Leave those 5-star ratings and reviews on Spotify as our Christmas present. Subscribe on YouTube. And take care, everyone.
See you next time.